Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. Today's video is an album review on the Motels' second album called Careful. Motels were a Los Angeles band in the late 70s, and then I think their first album came out in 1980, and this is their second album. Of course, the album after this, um, they definitely broke through with some big hits with Only the Lonely and um, Never the L. Is that what it was? And of course, then suddenly last summer and had a couple more hits in there, and then sort of after their '86 album, sort of went their different ways for different reasons, and but for about five albums, they had a really good sound, and they're kind of like the quintessential version of of a new wave rock band. How it started out in the late '70s. They definitely sort of sound like Pretenders a little bit, but Martha's voice, the lead singer, she's such a strong singer. I'm sure, like, seeing her in the early days, you just knew the band was going to be eventually do well. With her powerful voice, and the band's pretty tight. Together, a little different instruments. Some horns and saxophones and bass and guitar, but they added keyboards, and they were pretty. Wouldn't say with the times, but they were a good example of pop's new music. Sort of a new wave, sort of rock sound. And kind of the Pretenders, kind of Kim Wilde, maybe Pat Benatar and stuff like that. Of all those particular bands, I liked Motels better than, even though Pretenders had a lot of great hits, and I like the addition of keyboards. Like, I'm an electronic fan, music fan, so I liked that the Motels were a little bit more moody than Pat Benatar or Pretenders. Added little keyboards, a little bit more depth. I feel like just far in the atmosphere. So I always liked the Motels. I especially on this album, when they kind of, you can feel like, even though this is like 1980, I think this is 81 or 82. No, maybe this came out in 80, 81, something like that. Let me look at my notes here. Yeah, this album came out in 1980. So, even by this year, they're already pretty well established, playing together for a couple years. I think they started out in Berkeley, and then they went down to you know Sunset Strip and be part of that scene. And what an amazing scene that must be. I'm just really, I don't know if there's any documentary out there. When it comes to the late '70s all the way through the '80s, but just the scene back then in on Sunset. And although I'm not a huge fan of the bands that came out of Sunset, the sounds and stuff like that, because it's mostly on the rock side, like, it must have been an amazing time to go out. And I wasn't really 18 until 92, 94, so I kind of missed going out in the '80s, but especially like the early '80s, like going out. And I mean, even as far as back as like Van Halen, you know, like seeing bands like that, and all through that period of like L.A. Guns and Motley Crue and Guns N' Roses and stuff like that, and even other West Coast artists like Metallica and stuff like that. But even more so, like the other side, like the Pretenders and the Motels, and um, Jane's Addiction, Red Hot Chili Peppers. There was just like so many bands that came up through the '80s, that were sort of a part of the Sunset, scene, with Whiskey a Go Go, and the Rainbow Room, and all those, Dresden, and just all those kind of bars in those hip area, and then all the you know all the concert venues out there on Sunset. Just must have been an amazing time to be part of that, and to go out and see a band like Oingo Boingo, early in their career. And I got a little bit of that in the '90s. I saw a little bit of that in the '90s. We used to go to, like, Coconut Cheeser on Sunset, and LA. Well, I used to, Live, which used to be, I think, Go Go, and I'm blanking on some of the other classic clubs that was besides Whiskey Go Go's. I'm blanking on the names right now, but there's quite a few on there on LA where it was just on Sunset Boulevard where it was just you just never knew what kind of band you would run into, or some band that would just show up, and this just must have been exciting days to be part of and to be a band. Something like Missing Persons would have been a cool one to see like early on, and Berlin and stuff like that. Just kind of up and coming like new wave artists would have been really cool. Yeah, just exciting times. And Motel was kind of one of those bands. But even by like 1980, like they've been playing like 3 years. You can tell even in this band, even in this album, they're pretty tight as a band. And this album didn't do well going out. When it started out. Once the next album got popular, this album eventually sold over 400,000 copies. I read that, and produced a couple of hits in odd countries like New Zealand, and then had a couple top 50s in UK and stuff like that. But this album didn't really do too well until the next album broke, and then people started to recognize what they did. And of course, like most people do, buy the albums previously. So yeah, we're gonna go through this album pretty quickly and rate some of the songs, talk about some of the songs, and then rate the overall of the album and talk about that. So there's 10 tracks on this record. First track is Danger, which I believe was a single. Yeah, I think it was their second single overall, and they had some videos early on with these songs too, and they got some play on MTV and things like that. But not so much in the early day like this album. It wasn't until again they broke out with Only the Lonely that they really got hit. But their first video I think was Total Control on their first album, and then this was their second video slash single called Danger. It's kind of become a cult favorite for people who like the band. I think they were even on the VH1's Bands Reunited. They were on that, and that was a pretty successful episode of the good that could turn out of that show. And I wish that show would come back. It was a cool show. Maybe do like an underground version of Bands Reunited would be kind of cool. There'd be so many that it would be interesting to see come back. But I really enjoyed the Motels that episode. It was one of my favorites. But also, Romeo Void was a good one too. But yeah, Danger, definitely a fan favorite for probably for this album from cult song from their fans in the from this album, anyways. You can definitely tell it's more adult rock. This is kind of urging on stylish, kind of smooth, catchy. Again, it sort of sounds like mixing Pat Benatar with Pretenders, with maybe I wouldn't say as new wave is like the Cars or something like that, but it's kind of verging on that with a female singer type version. They do a little bit of ballads. They do a little bit of kind of some stuff sounds like 60s music, kind of like the Ronettes or something like that, or Ronettes, I guess some people say. Um, so there's like that kind of 60s rock and roll feel, and then they add a little keyboard on there, so it's kind of a little new wave-ish, and she's such a good singer. Like she can pull off like any style, and that's the thing that's probably most evident when you hear the Motels. Like her voice really carries the song, and she's really like I wouldn't say she's like transfixing or anything like that as a singer, but like but she is that powerful and that much of a voice. Like she can really kind of do a lot of different kind of moods. And Danger and then the second track Envy are good examples of the type of vocals that are kind of different and unique, and she kind of pulls off. There's one song, I can't remember which one it is off the top of my head. It might be Bonjour Baby, but it kind of sounds like early like No Doubt would. Like she kind of has that kind of playful like Spiderwebs kind of song, like where she's sort of talking and then duh, 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 duh. She kind of has like this. It's kind of like I guess it's sort of from. I don't know. It kind of has like a I wouldn't say like a play feel, but like 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 if it was like a soundtrack like Grease or something like that, it would be like a song from Grease. Like I don't know why I keep thinking of Grease when I hear some of her songs, but it just kind of has that like 50s rock and roll with kind of new updated with like some female sass in it and kind of some edgy, you know, girl power type stuff. You know, like she can really, you know, she's a powerful singer. She, you can see she's like definitely the most dominant person in the band, and you know, she has some swagger, especially, you know, I'd say even more swagger than like maybe even Pat Benatar, like in kind of a laid back way. Maybe not Pat Benatar, but definitely more than the girl from Pretenders, you know. But she has kind of a powerful, I mean, huge voice, of course, but also like she can kind of do anything she wants to when she sings, and that's kind of, I guess, what I'm getting at. But Danger's a really good song. You know, it's stylish and smooth and catchy for 1980. It's just, you know, really good stuff for 1980 when you think about what's out around in popular music in 1980. I gave it 3 stars. Track number 2 is Envy. This is kind of what I was saying. Like it's rock and roll done in a new wave style. Pretty good track. I got it 2.25 stars, but this is a good example of what a lot of this particular album kind of hints at, and each song kind of hits in a way. And then the next album is a little bit more polished a little bit more polished, and they're kind of getting away from 70s rock and going a little bit even more so towards you know, a new wave. Track 3 is Careful, the title track of the album. Definitely more new wave sounding on this one as well. Her voice is almost sounding kind of like she's European. You know, like again, she can kind of do anything that she wants to. You know, she kind of adds like an accent on her voice that kind of makes her sound kind of European in this track. It's pretty cool. I got this one 2.25 stars too. Another good track. Bonjour Baby, I like a little bit better. This feels like more the successful direction. Not necessarily saying that's a better direction, but this is a little bit more, I would say, more towards being successful or popular sound. The piano is really nice. The break in the middle is cool. The band does this style really well, in my opinion. These moody kind of middle parts, especially because she sings so well. I really like the chorus. This one I said sounds like the Ronettes. Kind of has that. My mom was listening to this actually while I was at my mom's house when I had my headphones on, and I decided to put it on the speakers because I wanted to hear how it sounded a little bit louder. And my mom thought it sounded like Kiki D from the 60s. I don't know if that's true or not. I know the name, but I don't know what Kiki D sounds like. But I thought it sounded like the Ronettes. Ronettes, excuse me. But cool track. I got 3 stars. Very good track. Track number 5. I like the way she sings The Change. I mean, I could probably say that about every song, but I really, especially on this one, I like the way she sings. There's some good music going on here for sure. It never really gets to the next level. Um, the saxophone and everything else on the fade out isn't the best. It just kind of runs out of steam, but still a good track. 2.5 stars. But I really was liking most of it, and you know, as it was getting close to the end, it kind of fizzled out a little bit. But I love the track name, Party Professionals. The Party Professionals. It's always something good to be at as a party. Track number 6 was a top 50 song in UK. Days Are Okay, but the Nights Were Made for Love. This definitely has a new wave sound to it. The raw drums, good, cohesive, strong song. I mean, I like this as much as other people. I do feel like it's got a good chorus and everything like that, but I feel like it's not as good as some of the others on the album. But I got 2.5 stars, so it's right there. Again, not any song under has been under. In fact, I only have two songs actually out of the last 4 that are actually under good. But for the most part, you know, at least 8 out of the 10 songs are good, in my opinion. Track number 7 is one of the ones that kind of fails for me. Not a bad song. It's just 1.25. Really had nothing good to say about it, or really, you know, hugely bad about it. It just didn't really do much for me. Whose Problem was also a top 50 hit in UK. Martha's clever singing in this one. Almost has like a 60s sound in this one too. Like again, like a play would. She would have been great on Broadway. I put that note in there because she's just a. I mean, she would have been amazing for like Broadway shows and stuff like that. If she wasn't in this band, she probably could have had a great career on Broadway. It's a really catchy song. I got 2.25 stars. People, Places, and Things. It kind of sounds like Katrina and the Waves, which I only know that one song from. But it sounds like that one song, and I don't know. It sounds like Katrina Waves, but it sounds like that one Katrina Waves song. I don't know anything else by the band, but what song was that? Katrina and the Waves. God, I can't think of which that song was. Anyways, it sounds like that. The beat, the way the beat is just on top like that. It sounds just like Katrina and the Waves, that one track. But not a good track overall. I just got it okay. One star. It's my least favorite on the album. And then it ends on a good note. Slow Town, good ballad. Her voice carries the song perfectly. Again, she's such a strong singer. How many times do I have to say that? But I'm just kind of touching on my notes. Like every time I would hear, I said that probably on her voice, probably 5 times out of 10 songs. Like I point out her voice in a song. Just amazing singer, amazing singer. So overall, the good about the album, some pretty good songs. Obviously, Martha Davis's voice again, unique. You just knew she would be successful, I'm sure, as she was coming up. Again, it seems like the band kind of found themselves in this album compared to their first album. The production is pretty good for 1980. Mixing is pretty strong. Kind of an interesting cover artwork. It's kind of Art Deco, sort of, but kind of has like an S&M to it. Like this dude's got a chain on here, and he's got his pants undone with his, I don't know, like his happy trail showing, and this girl's all with her boobs showing. I don't know, pretty risque. I would think pretty risque cover art for the day, but it is kind of cool in an artsy way. Different, unique, that's for sure. As far as the opportunity of the album, most of the songs just don't hit the next level of what some of their future songs do. I don't know if they're maybe not as polished as that, or they're still kind of in the rock and roll phase here, and they really haven't gone full new wave yet. Maybe that's it. But I do like the rock and the balance that they have as a band. I think they're always kind of at this level, but maybe the songwriting and composing isn't as next level as the next couple albums. Perhaps some of the choruses could be a little bit better on these, depending on the direction or style you like. I don't know. That's just kind of a question, but I do feel like a couple of the songs' choruses aren't really up to par, considering the songs and what they do. But they're all different in it. A lot of them are very different. Again, they seem to do a few styles really well. New wave sound, a more pop sound, a rock and roll sound, a 60s sound. Martha can sing ballads. But I don't think that's a bad thing, but this one doesn't do it as much as maybe even they sort of dropped the rock and roll sound a little bit, the 60s sound that's in here. Maybe they dropped that in the later albums, and that helps out too with the new wave sound. Just some opportunities, but nothing really egregiously bad on this album at all. Just a couple okay songs, but nothing crazy. As far as the album, when I add the stars up, I got 23 stars divided by 10, which is a 2.30. So that's 2.30 is stars per song. Stars per song is kind of roughly in the mid 50s, and I think it's right under a good album. I'd say it's not a bad album. It's on the higher side of like okay. It's like I almost want to say it's a good album, but just can't really pull it over. There's maybe if there was like 2 super strong tracks with like instead of a couple very good tracks. Like I only have I have 3 songs out of 10 that are over 3 stars. So I have 8 of the 10 songs above good, but I really feel like I can't say because they're right at good. It's just right there. So, and then a couple of okay tracks. I just feel like like the songs say it should be a good album. It means 8 out of the 10 songs, but there's nothing really like over. It's really close. I mean, I gave it a 57 out of 100. It's like right there, but I just can't feel like I can say it's a good album. It's not bad. It's okay. It's on the higher side, and it's close to being a good album, but just not there. Um, you know, I do feel like maybe rating low. Maybe I should put it around 60, 62. But it's funny when I was looking at my reviews and I do have a lot of albums in between like 58 and like 64 already. And but that's it's a good album. It's a good album. And then I was like, why do I have so many in the 60s? And I was like, okay, I'm picky. Okay, I'm not overly picky. Where these are albums of bands that I like and albums that I bought and albums that I've had for a long time. But um, you know, it's a good album. It's this one's really close. So it's just right on the edge. Um, it's just feel like I can't get it over the hump and say it's a good album. It's really close. But I mean, what's a couple of points? I could say it's 60 and say it's a good album, or 57. It's still kind of in that range. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I kind of going back and forth on that. I do. Again, that's the interesting thing about when I like a lot of different styles. I feel like I like a lot of different styles, but I wouldn't necessarily break out Guns N' Roses' Appetite for Destruction and rate that, because I don't really have the background to compare heavy metal to other heavy metal. I mean, I probably have 15 heavy metal albums in my whole collection. Like Judas Priest is my favorite heavy metal artist. So I don't know. There's some things that I probably shouldn't review, and there was one out. There was actually 2 albums in this last list that I decided not to review, and that's because I feel like in my opinion on their album quality might be a little bit, not experienced, coming from a different sort of side. And then, to somebody who really liked it and they loved that band, and then they compare it, kind of felt like I, wouldn't, like I shouldn't do it. I don't know. I'm still kind of going back and forth. There's just, and the 2 bands were Jan Hammer's 1969 album was a jazz album, and the other one was Style Council, um, their first album. I started listening to it and rating it, and then I was like, I'm not going to get anything really 4 stars on here. It's not really my style of my favorite style. I do have the album, I like it, but like if I don't think anything's like, I don't know, I just felt like I couldn't give an opinion on the songs. Like, like it wasn't really, I don't know, it just felt kind of like not disingenuous or anything like that, but just kind of felt like out of place. Like it wasn't my my type of record, my type of background to really kind of rate. So I think that's interesting because it's going to be like that actually might if that continues to follow down, there's going to be a lot of albums in my collection where I'm not going to review. I thought I'd pretty much rate, have no problem in rating anything, but now that I actually sit down and do them, like I got a Miles Davis record over here. I listened to a couple times. I like it, but it's not like to rate Miles Davis for me. Like I think me rating Miles Davis. I think if I was a Miles Davis fan and I saw my own review, I'd be like, this guy is rating something he has no idea about, and I can rate it like based on my knowledge, but my knowledge isn't necessarily jazz. my background isn't jazz music, and I don't know Miles Davis's catalog well. So I mean, what kind of opinion would that be? So that's kind of the extreme. There's probably heavy metal and some jazz might be the extreme. I don't have too much blues albums, but you know, even rock and roll, like I did Paul. I'm doing Paul Young next, and he has a little bit of new wave in there, and that was even really close. Where I was like, maybe I should just bail on doing this review because it's not really my forte of music, But I'm trying to also kind of challenge myself and see where some different genres might fit, and then also still just listen to some albums that I don't know, like I got this Paul Young cassette from my sister, who got this brand new in 1985. I only know 2 songs on it. Of course, I know Every Time You Go Away, but I was surprised I listened to it. I did remember I'm Gonna Tear Your Playhouse Down, which I looked up and it was a single, so I do remember that one as well. But, I was just kind of like listening to it. I'm like, this really isn't my field. Should I give this a rating? I still ended up doing it because I did like some songs in there. I think if it would have been totally out of my ballpark, I wouldn't have done it. Like I do have a review coming up. If you'll see, and I touch on this on my Tears for Fears review, which you'll see. Well, which I haven't done yet, but I'm gonna do later today, and you'll see on that review what I'm talking about. That's, I'm going back and forth in my head if I should just not rate it at all. Still talk about it and do the review, but just not rate it overall because, I just watch that video if you want to see why I don't want to rate Tears for Fears album. Seeds of Love, their third album. But, watch that video. But yeah, kind of getting back to this one, I think it's a successful album. I just feel like I can't kind of push it over the edge and call it a good album. It's not bad. I'm kind of messing around with my ratings as I kind of do this, and I get to some ones where it might break the mold. I did add another level to my ratings. So if you're interested in checking the notes, I'm copying all my new ones. But I felt like, so I have not very good and then okay, and then I have good, right? So I kind of felt like there should be a rating in between okay and good. And I still haven't, not 100% okay or for sure that I want to put pretty good. Because right now I have not very good or below average, and then okay, pretty good, and then good, very good, excellent, legendary status, or classic. Or I'm sorry, legendary status. Excellent is also classic. Then a legendary is above that. And kind of what that means is 80 to 90 is an excellent / classic. That can mean it's a classic in that genre. And then legendary status could be like it's an all-time classic of just overall music, on top of that, like to even a higher level. So underneath excellent is very good, and then good. I'm happy with that. But I feel like something should be in between good and okay. Because like when you talk to somebody and you say, oh, it's an okay album. And then you talk to somebody and say it's a good album. I feel like there should be something between that. The only thing I can think of is a pretty good album, and I don't like how that sounds, but because below okay and bad, I have not a very good album, or below average. I think there should be a difference between okay and bad. I mean, like pretty good, maybe the pretty good should be under okay. I don't know if pretty good's better than okay. I don't know, it's really close. I'm trying to think of something in between pretty good and okay. I'm sorry, between good and okay. Look at my review and ratings and see if you can, guide me to something in between 56 rating and 59, which I wanted to put. And that's kind of example of this album is I put this one at 57, so I want to say it's a pretty good album. And I feel like that's right. So I got it there for now, but I'm keeping it a pretty good album. I'm just not sure if it's better than okay. Maybe I should switch okay and then pretty good below. But pretty good is above okay, right? I mean, should be that way. But yeah, I think I feel better about saying this is a pretty good album, than saying it's okay. Um, So I do like that part of it, and that's kind of why I changed my rating. Is I'm going to run into some albums that are kind of pushing the envelope, and I want to be as exact as possible as I can with where to place these records, in my opinion. So I want to have the right opinion meet a conversation. Like, if somebody asks me, "Hey, how's that album?" Oh, it's an excellent album. I want to be confident in saying that. Somebody asks me, and I think it's a good album, and I'm like, well, it's okay. Then I'd rather say it's a pretty good album. Because I do feel like this is a pretty good album. So yeah, I'm just kind of talking out loud here. I don't know. It's just an ongoing project and work. But yeah, that's my review on the Motels 1980 album. Careful. Curious on what your opinion would be, and how would you score this album out of 100? Especially taking into account how I do my rating systems. If you don't mind, that always helps me. But thanks for watching, and have a good day.